All right, welcome back. Moving up into Ajna, into chakra number 6, the mind's eye. Well, hello everyone. Here we are in video 6. We're into the 6th chakra, Ajna. And we are now going to get the full description of Ajna with David from Pyramid Yoga. So how would you launch into number 6?
Full description of something invisible. We moved far away from the tangible first chakras. Here we're into the magnetic field. We had electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic vibration. The reality of that is it's actually two separate forces. We have the magnetic and the electro. And in the reality of the fields, we have a magnetic line. It's like a guideline. And then you have an electron, a wave, or it can even be the wavering of the line around a certain center. So at the core of every electromagnetic frequency, vibration, there is a magnetic guideline. These guidelines are essentially directing everything that is happening in the universe and coming into the solidification of these waves at our molecular level. This is the pattern that they fall into. I think it is being discovered, rediscovered in modern science. If you listen to Nassim Haramein, for example, looking at patterns and realizing what we see again, the empty space thing isn't empty at all. And then when you go into the electromagnetic wave, something is guiding the wave. And it's falling into all of these various patterns of manifestation because there's a blueprint in behind all of this energy. And the blueprint is essentially Ajna. You think of it as the imagination of the universe, the drawing board that is laying out how life is going to be manifested in all the different worlds, including ours. So this magnetic force is what we use to direct our mind, to make decisions and to say, I'm going to do this. There's a magnetic impulse that goes to activate muscles to make us do things.
Very nice. I mean, one of the terms that is used to describe the 6th chakra is the mind's eye. So you just mentioned this vision. So also the 6th sense, right? Sometimes associated, and it is the 6th chakra. So another synchronicity there.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the idea that you just touched on, which is the mind's eye, which is our imagination or image access point?
The directing, vision. Yeah, it's the directing force, and it's from this place that we direct what's going to happen in our life, what we want to do. It's the directing place for our physiology as well. When we're looking back at the endocrine glands, the physiological aspect here, the pituitary gland is called the master gland. And actually, Ajna means the commander. So this is where we send the commands. And the pituitary gland sends the directions. It puts out the little neuropeptide messages that go to the thyroid, to the parathyroids, to the thymus, to the pancreas, to the kidneys, to the sex glands. It sends out the signals that say, turn on, activate, produce something, or relax, you've done enough. So it's literally the directing force of our body chemistry and
Mm-hmm.
brain chemistry. And it's really in the center of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
From the mind, these commands are given, and this is how we regulate our chemistry. This is the connection, of course, mind body connection.
Mm-hmm.
This gland is in the middle of our brain. Where do we think? Generally, we're thinking in our brain. And
Mm-hmm.
all the vibrations we make, we spoke of the vibration in Vishuddha. Vibration, as something vibrates, it creates a sound. Well, every thought you have is a sound in your head. And when we bring it down to the fifth chakra, we express it outwards. But if we
Mm-hmm.
don't express, it's still a thought in our head. It's a vibration. And in research already now 25 years ago or so, they found this area of the brain just above the pituitary called the hypothalamus. This is a kind of a emotional center, but they discovered that it's the place where the vibration of your thoughts is coded into the vibration of a molecular structure. By putting atoms together in a certain way, it replicates the frequency of the thought that you are thinking. So
Mm-hmm.
our brain chemistry is being manufactured here by our thoughts. From this little part in the hypothalamus, there's a little shaft going directly down to the back of the pituitary gland, activating the pituitary to then put out appropriate hormones,
Mm-hmm.
neuropeptides for whatever our thoughts are. Now, this is a very key and a very important point here because the quality of your thoughts and how you think about yourself and how you are thinking along the lines of whatever your expectations are. This is
Mm-hmm.
directly going into your chemistry. So when you're on a roll of negative thinking, your
Right.
chemistry goes into a negative vibration. And let's remember atoms and molecules aren't little balls that aren't doing anything. They are vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these vibrations contained within the molecules are sending, it's like a little song. Okay. They have a song that they're bringing to the other glands and organs to function or not function, to do this or do that. So it's, what are they going to do? Again, the importance of what are you thinking?
So it's amazing how it's real time. It's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like that little laboratory in there that can produce these chemicals and produce all this stuff
Mhm.
is doing it on a real time basis, right?
Yeah. And
So
it's solidifying the vibration of our own thoughts into molecules. If you want to think of molecules as actually something solid, but they are
mm-hmm.
conglomerations of vibrations, just like in a band, you've got different instruments. The different atoms within the molecule have their little frequency, and when you put them together, it can make a harmonic song, or it can be out of tune.
Dissonance. Yes.
Yeah, dissonance, out of tune, and we don't like to usually listen to music out of tune. It doesn't make us feel good. So the
Mm-hmm.
harmonic thing is a really important part of it, and having all of our brain and body chemistry functioning in a harmonious way is what
Mm-hmm.
creates health and happiness. And when
Mm-hmm.
you have this dissonance, this discord, this out of tuneness, I don't feel so good today.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about your chemistry. Your
Yeah.
feelings are your perception of your own chemistry. And
Right.
you can go back to Dr. Candace Pert, who many years ago discovered a lot about our brain chemistry and wrote a book called The Molecules of Emotion. And she's pointing out in the book that what we have, when we are experiencing emotions, we're really feeling our own chemistry and the vibration of our chemistry.
Right.
In yoga, you're learning to redirect the molecular structures, change your thoughts, and rearrange your chemistry by
Mm-hmm.
actions of, bringing in more oxygen into the equation,
Mm-hmm.
changing your thoughts into something optimistic and positive.
Hmm. Understanding that thoughts are actually electrical impulses. I mean, for science to understand that's pretty simple because um, they can register thoughts with sensors, placed all
Yeah,
over us.
yeah.
And so the thought is registering as an electrical impulse.
Mhm.
So thoughts are frequency. They are, in fact, electrical. And that's part of what we're talking about here with taking part in controlling or directing the types of thoughts that are going through your mind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, like negative self-talk and just negativity, pessimism. Um,
Or just negative expectations coming from a memory of a disease or remembering something negative that happened. All of these things have an impact on our
mhm,
chemistry, on our health, and on our state of consciousness.
mhm,
And we can choose to repeat the negativity or we create new thought patterns. You can imagine something better and put your energy into that imagination. And what we're doing the imaging with is the magnetic patterns that we are creating. And then it
mhm,
becomes electromagnetic as we add energy to it and we add the vibration to it in the thinking process, what they call affirmation. Okay. We talked about
mhm,
mantra a little bit in the last part, dealing with sound and Vishuddha chakra. The
mhm,
use of sound, changing the sounds. You're having a negative thought. Well, choose a different thought. Think something differently. And for
mhm.
most people, the thinking comes up and your consciousness is observing the thought, not realizing that your subconscious has created that thought.
Right.
So you roll it back and say, well, wait a minute, I want to redirect this vibration into something better.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we
There's,
recreate the thought. You can chant Om. You can do
mhm.
and various mantras and just take your consciousness away from the negative thought pattern and put it into something positive.
Right. It's stepping out of this victim mentality that we're actually subject to those thoughts and ideas and that we had nothing to do with it, right? A lot of people talk about that, it's like they can't step into that control place. Yeah.
This is where yoga redirects us into let's step back into the director's chair and
Mhm.
decide what we are going to think. And that's a
Yeah.
big step for most people. Well,
Yeah.
I just thought
Yeah.
of this and I just thought of that. And it's like, okay, well, why?
Hmm.
I mean, those thoughts have come from somewhere. Okay. They've come
Yeah.
from years of living in the world. They've come from watching TV, from listening to certain songs,
Hmm. Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
programs that have been given to us through the educational system. What
Yeah.
ideas do we have in our mind? Go ahead.
That's right. And what's coming up from the well of our subconscious? I call it the well of the
Yeah, yeah.
subconscious, right? What's coming up from this well of our subconscious are have some meaning, and there's messaging there, and there are ideas that we can take from it. But becoming more of a director is part of what we talk about here with the mind's eye. And
Yeah.
so the other thing, what about you talked about pituitary gland and where does the pineal gland link into this? Because that's mainly usually seen as the third eye, right?
Yeah, it's in the yogic system, it's more connected to the seventh chakra, which is
Right.
the element of the seventh chakra is consciousness itself. Here we're in
Right.
the magnetic field, and we go down to electromagnetic, etc.
Hmm.
The pineal gland is a light sensitive gland. And when we say light sensitive, it's beyond what our normal eyes can see as far as light. Light is electromagnetic frequency. And the
Hmm.
pineal gland is subject or a receiver for a much greater scope, a much greater bandwidth, let's say.
Hmm.
And it's reacting to that. Now, was research done back in the late 60s or 1970s. Actually, Gene brought me this magazine when I was in India,
Hmm.
published by RCA Electronics Corporation. They had done these experiments with because they were developing color television and wanted to know, well, what we do with this? What's the influence? and they could measure the difference in looking at the color red, looking at the color green or blue or purple, stimulated the pineal gland to put out slightly different hormones, different neuropeptides. And that is then influencing your brain, going into the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So it's like above, it's an epiendocrine gland that runs on light. Now, what else they have discovered in more recent years is that it's like a crystal. There are actually crystal cells within the pineal. Now we're getting
Within the
the
gland.
seventh chakra, of course, but and it's
Yeah.
reacting. The crystals are picking up frequencies of all kinds, and that's filtering down to the pituitary. The pituitary is where we decide, make decisions, govern our thoughts, decide to do this, do that. And all of this
Mhm.
in the forebrain where we make these decisions, where we come to understanding things.
Mhm.
We had
Right.
a lot of information in the fifth chakra. I'm talking about universal information as well as whatever's in the library, whatever Google knows. But the sixth chakra wants to understand, doesn't need so much information, but to understand the information you have is what's the processing center of the sixth chakra.
Mhm.
Process the information and come to conclusions. And it's always trying to do this. This is its mission, one of its missions, as well as directing, etc. So this is an important thing to understand.
Mhm.
Gathering knowledge is well, we're in the information age. There's too much information that is irrelevant for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. Too much information. So, calming the mind and getting rid of those peripheral and useless ideas that just keep cycling around would be one of the objectives for centering ourselves and working with the sixth chakra. What techniques can we use to help this process of getting the sixth chakra to spin properly?
We talk about meditation. We talk about concentration. There are 3 steps of contemplation, concentration, and meditation in yoga. Now, when I say contemplation, this is an active thinking process. And in this process, you're looking at all the stuff that has been programmed into you. And when you're looking at this processing function of Ajna, it's trying to come to a conclusion. Everything you've been taught, all of the conflicts, all of the theories, all of the good and bad experiences are there to learn something from. And we have a lot of unresolved issues. We have a lot of theories about this or that. We have a lot of mistaken history that's not true. And because your mind wants to understand, it's on this ongoing processing thing. This is part of what creates a disturbed mind, and you can't find peace of mind because it's still trying to figure things out. So
Right.
there's a certain amount of figuring things out that needs to happen. And in yoga, we get into, the ekadasi. You're using a breathing technique that goes into your memory banks, into your past, into your cellular memory of your body, bringing up the things that are unresolved, the things that were traumatic, and that are disturbing energy fields, energy flows within the nervous system. And that's a necessary part of establishing peace of mind. Once you have peace of mind, you're sitting stable, very peacefully, and you can choose to then direct your energy with concentration. That can go down to the fourth chakra for healing something in your body. It can go to the fifth chakra to research a certain segment of knowledge about something or other. And you will see the results by doing it when your mind is clear and when you're focused.
Right.
Then we spoke last time about using mandala, visual concentration on mandalas, which are like little visual tuning forks that then direct your mental process into this chakra, that chakra. And this is used to explore and to learn more just by observation and focused concentration on mandala, on specific geometry, sacred geometry, temples, churches, cathedrals. Look at those big stained glass windows in the cathedral. There's a message, there's knowledge in behind there. And it's especially
Yeah.
beautiful if the sun is shining through it and you're looking up, you're getting, wow, that's so beautiful. With the
Yeah.
beauty and the light comes information that is uplifting, about getting us into these higher chakras where we feel the universal love of Christianity is talking about, etc.
Right. Yeah. So the complexity as we came up the chakra column, the petals and the geometry of representation of the chakra got more and more complicated, more crosses, more intersections. And in Ajna, we have just the two petals, right?
Right.
Um, so the reason I bring that in is just to bring that visual in because we're talking about the visual mandala, but also understanding that now we've gotten to a place now where there's just the two petals, and it's just yes, the aspects of polarity and that sort of thing. So
Duality, polarity, yeah.
duality.
Yeah, think of magnetic. What is magnetism? We have the North and South Pole. The polarity is there. It creates duality. We want to be sitting in the middle, and the balancing of these two is another aspect of Ajna. And our brain has two parts,
Two halves.
two halves. These are the two petals of Ajna. One of them is very feeling, intuitive, artistic, inspirational. The other one is very logical, mathematical, and rational. And they're meant to work together. When they are working together, you get a complete picture of the feeling, the intellectual understanding. And we've been educated off into the male side, the rational, logical, at the expense of the feeling and the intuitive. So in the sixth chakra, you want to rebalance that and bring it back into a harmonious cooperation of seeing both sides of the picture. It also brings us into our masculine and our feminine nature, which is part of us, whether we're male or female. We have both of these components. So we're kind of in an age where the men are becoming more feminine, the women have already become too masculine. There's a place that we'll find a balance at some point here.
Have to find our way back to center again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the contemplation and meditation, exercises of the mind are the primary tools that we can use then?
Yeah. And in the forms of yoga that we have been speaking about, it's yantra yoga. Yantra is the study of sacred geometry. Essentially, it's a study of the energetics of the universe and how it falls into these patterns that are there in the universe, these patterns that are creating the manifestation as things materialize. And in that, we have the wave function and the study of the wave function itself, the frequency of the waves, how every particular frequency has an effect on us. And each one is attributed to one of the chakras, or each, let's say, a specific frequency, and then the harmonics of that above and below. Each one has an influence on us, giving us the sensation of the feeling of gravity or the feeling of expansion in anahata. When you get to the sixth chakra, it's the feeling of being at the center. It's almost like you have the drawing pencil and you're drawing out the picture you want to create. It's a very calm energy as opposed to Vishuddha, which is vibrant and wordy and loud and vibrational. This one has a calm sense to it. And you know, when you get in there, the calmness is there. And when you're too much back in the fifth chakra, too much in your rational mind, too much thinking, it disturbs that peace.
Right. So I think we've covered many of the aspects of Ajna. Is there anything else you can think of to wrap up number 6?
Just a little continuation on the yantra side is it's the mathematics and geometry of the universe and measures time in a sense that there are different cycles of time according to the energy of this chakra, that chakra, and each one has an influence, an impact on what you're doing, what you're feeling, what your thoughts are. And this leads to a system in yoga, in part of the yantra system, where you can calculate your personal calendar. And you know which chakra energies you have today, which one you'll have tomorrow. On a bigger scale, this month and next month are all governed by a specific chakra energy. And having observed this and taught it and played with it for decades, there's a high degree of accuracy here. And it's not like it's totally predictive. It's just telling you what energy you have access to day by day, month by month, and year by year. What you do with that energy is still up to you. This is the director again. What am I going to do? Today I have a huge amount of social energy. Am I going to sit at home and write a book? Or am I going to go out and if you do go out, you'll find, oh, you're meeting all these people that have something to say to you today. People you were thinking about contacting, and all of a sudden you bump into them. So when you're doing the right thing at the right time, the yantra calendar allows you to do that. It's a way of planning out a little bit better than just being in the chaos of life sometimes.
Right. Or just counting on intuition and counting on more obscure sort of techniques and forces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Anything else we could cover?
No, I think that's pretty good. We will move into the 7th chakra in our next video, and and just do a wrap up afterwards too, and just tie it all together. But the next one will be video number 7, where we will cover the crown chakra and a little bit beyond.
Yeah. Sahasrara, which is, it's the crown chakra on the head, not in it. And it can go out into the universe or down into the body. So it's a turning point where we, again, decide and direct where we're going to go with this. Okay. Then next time with Sahasrara chakra. For now, this is a kind of an overview of Ajna, the command center.
Okay. Command center. All right. Until next time.
Yeah.